You know, having to run around all day thinking everyone's stupid, and you know how Bill Gates is so good that he can just manipulate the whole wide world. Of course, wealthy people have more power, and there's lots of money in politics and all that, but that's not the whole story. You know, lots of structural things and systemic things. There's more complexity to it all. So it's time to be thankful for the Olympics and for the fact that we have satellites, because I promise you this, you know, the externalities that come with our science and technology, we don't think deeply about those things. We think very, very carefully about the profits that can be had. And we're really good at getting those profits. Or some of us are anyway. Some of us are really good at playing the game. We're expert players. Some of us aren't, so we just support the players or are enslaved by the players, whatever you want to say. So the question is, do I go to the high country? I hate crossing this road, man. It's really busy. I'm trying to think. I kind of want to do it. The high country. You want to go to the high country, buddy? Yeah, let's go to the high country. But of course, there's a lot of dead ends. That's the one thing. That's how you learn. That's how you map things, by, you know, finding the dead ends. If you're an entrepreneur, a business person, you find the dead ends, and eventually you work your way into something that works, you know? So what's going to happen? Well, we don't think about externalities. That's not our concern. We have more pressing and important things to think about from moment to moment, day to day. So eventually these externalities build up and we have consequences, like climate change and so on. Like having the Taliban as our allies when we're fighting the Russians, and then fighting them for 20 years and then leaving, and then the Civil War comes back. That doesn't really matter because the military-industrial complex and the arms traders are happy. If you own stock in arms manufacturers or whatever, companies, then you're doing pretty good. You could probably afford to buy a boat, which is fine. Anyway, externalities, what's going to happen? We don't pay attention to these things. So eventually there's going to be a problem with all the space junk, and we're going to have some serious setbacks in our satellite coverage of the Olympics. Also, this year was the first year that we had a refugee Olympic squad. Let that sink in, my friends. Please let that sink in. We're living in an era where we have a refugee Olympic squad going to the Olympics. I mean, that's a thing now. Whether it's because of war, famine, poverty, drug wars, whatever it is, climate change, which is going to be a big one, man. People are going to be moving around because our landscape, our weather, it's going to be changing radically. People are going to move. And some people are going to say, you're not welcome here, boy. We don't serve Chinese here. That's a quote from a Kung Fu episode, so please don't call me a racist. Anyway, there are going to be consequences to a lot of the things we do. Obviously, I like science, engineering, and technology a lot. And I think we can solve problems, but not with the sociological, psychological, spiritual, cultural, philosophic underpinnings, structure to support a way of life that's wiser and that can deal with externalities in a different way. So we need better economics. We need better government, not just no taxes. We need better institutions. We need all that kind of stuff. And I believe human beings can create those things, but maybe because, you know, the internet is really wiping us out, you know, through our silos and our bubbles and our information bubbles and the tribal bullshit. It's killing our ability to think in a broader way that I mentioned earlier. The Consilience Project, Schmachtenberger kind of thing. I appreciate him more than a lot of other people because he's honest enough to say, I don't know, and you have to look at these things from multiple angles to even have a cursory understanding of a subject or domain. And a lot of people don't do that. They have their opinion and that's that. They're dogmatic. They're absolutist, opinionated. And so you can't talk to them. You know, the cognitive dissonance is there, and the emotional attachment to their thinking, their ideology is there. So you can't educate them. They can't learn anymore. And people who stop learning about a subject are stupid. They're ignorant. They've given up. They think they know it all. And that's dumb. In my opinion, that's just fucking stupid. So if you tell me your opinion on something, like, why did we nuke Hiroshima and Nagasaki? I say, okay, that's your opinion. I got it. I've heard it 1,000,000 times. That particular line of reasoning. And I've also seen other ones that make total sense. And there's more to it than just the casualties, the war crimes. And by the way, after the war was over, it turns out the Japanese were human, after all. And that they weren't all just fanatics, and that they were good allies, and that they invented a lot of cool stuff. I drive a hybrid Toyota, you know, whatever. I spent a lot of years in Japan. And Japan breaks your heart, but it also is a fantastic place. I love it. I wouldn't have traded those years. I wouldn't trade those years. So that kind of dogmatism, narrow-mindedness, you know, I read a book on it once, now I know everything about it. That's just stupid. The same thing around this COVID thing. All these people get an opinion from 2 or 3 heterodox people, and then they think all the consensus, you know, the thousands and thousands of professionals are mean, they're wrong, they don't treat me right, because they know your opinion is just not correct. It's not the ideal opinion or perspective on things. And they've told you in 1,000,000 ways, but you refuse to listen because the controversy is more exciting and you get more clicks on YouTube if you're controversial, and so on and so forth. So it's just turning our brains to mush, all of this internet stuff. We don't know how to use it. I took a how to study course when I was in middle school. How to study. It was a good thing to take. And of course now I think we need how to fucking get the most out of the information on the internet without frying your brain. It's like that old commercial. This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs, and the egg is frying in the frying pan. So what's going to happen? Well, what's going to happen is we're going to have some serious crises. It's not like we haven't had those before in the past, is it? Sure we have, but this is going to be bigger. This is going to be global, like a world war. It's going to affect everybody on the planet. It's already affecting every life form on the planet. The ecology of the oceans, the ecology of every niche environment on the planet. It's affecting everything. There's no way to hide from it. You can't pretend like it's not. So there's going to be a lot of upheaval, right? We don't have to worry about the dollar hegemony or peak oil or fiat currency or blockchain. Fuck no, we don't have to worry about any of that. Because those are just little bit parts in the whole story. The story is complex. It has a lot of moving parts and very complex parts, like the difference between a transistor and an integrated circuit. Maybe you can make a transistor, a vacuum tube maybe. Somehow you can reinvent the machines that manufacture that. But are you going to be able to make an integrated circuit board? Methinks not without a lot of resources and expertise and fancy machinery. Hola! So, it's like the conspiracy theory, you know, how many thousands of people were in on bringing down the towers, the Twin Towers, you know. And we still don't have great evidence. So it's just, think of that kind of complex story, like how improbable it is that everyone involved in a conspiracy would keep the secret. Now, let's flip that over and say, imagine how complicated real life is, real systems are. Complex, okay, not just complicated, you know. A lot of things going on, man. So imagine how complex everything is, how many moving parts there are, how difficult it is to make parts for an electric car versus a straight six-cylinder, you know, internal combustion engine without a catalytic converter, you know. And, you know, I was a mechanic, but now I'm an electric car engineer or technician. See what I'm saying? So these are complex moving parts. Most of us don't know how they work. We don't know how our smartphones affect our ideas, thoughts, and opinions and emotions. Most of us don't think about that sort of thing. So what's going to happen is, when all of this complexity that we take for granted, all of these machines and mechanisms and governments and all these things start to fall apart, we're not going to know what to do. I spent many years visiting Ireland when I was a kid, from around 9 years old. And I'd go there in the summer, and I went there every summer until I was like 20 or 19, I forget. Anyway, back then Ireland was a simple country with an agriculture economy mostly. So a lot of farmers and shopkeepers and hoteliers and pub folks. And this is before all the tech companies went in there in the 80s and 90s, and before all the real estate bubbles and tech bubbles and everything. Now Ireland's a very modern, global, participant in the global economy. But back then they didn't have Quinsworth, they didn't have Safeway-like stores, you know. So you'd go down the road and there'd be a butcher who knew farmers and could access meat, and there was a baker who knew how to bake bread and could deliver bread, or you could go to the bakery and pick it up. Every village had that kind of infrastructure. You walk down to the corner store. milk is delivered to your door, and so on and so forth. It was very simple. Small refrigerators, small kitchens. But, you know, everyone ate, everyone lived, everyone enjoyed life. So where I am now, when the complex economy, the global supply chains and all that allow us to go to the grocery store and have all these great economies of scale, when that is gone, this area is going to revert right back to the old days. Only it'll do so more intelligently. People will be literate, and they'll have access to greater knowledge base and so on. But it'll go back. Now imagine people in the States, in the urban centers, who have never lived without the conveniences of the last 20 years. Forget about the last 40 or 50 years. We don't have to go back to the 17th or 18th century. Why bother? Just look at that. What are they going to do? When I was in Hong Kong, I was thinking, what are these people going to do if the system breaks down? And I'm not talking about a Canadian prepper perspective. I appreciate his perspective and people like him, but no, just saying, practically speaking, in a world where profits come first and externalities don't seem to matter that much, collateral damage and so on, and complex systems can shift on a dime and become unmanageable. So cascading feedback loops, melting ice, sea level rise, the changing chemistry of the oceans and so on and so forth means habitats change and things die. So what are these people in these big cities, the Pearl River Delta mega city, what are they going to do? And years ago I thought to myself, I'm not going to be here when that happens. And I'm getting older, so I might not make it to a disaster. My life might just be wonderful until the day I die. But if I were younger and had kids, I would take them somewhere else. Research the microclimates, the history of the region, ice flows, what was it like during various ice ages? Why? Well, it's just good to know how things change and shift so that you can be ready for it. Are you going to send your kid to school to be a clerk at an investment bank when you have this deep intuitive feeling backed by facts and trends, mega trends, that this particular economy is going to shift big time because of natural forces that we can't control? So circumstances will dictate what people do. You can't educate them because they're not going to slow down and be wise, take careful steps, think about things deeply before implementing big plans to make money. They're not going to do that. So what will change people are changing circumstances that are beyond their control. So if there is another world war, it's going to change you. I got to go back now. It's too bad. I don't want to go back. I should go a little further. So, changing circumstance will change things. And we forget, I remember that time I was bankrupt because of student debt and credit cards. And I had to do this, but now I got a good job. And you forget what fucked you over the last time. Right? You don't learn from mistakes. I don't expect normal people who aren't that interested in history or anything to learn. Whoa. Jesus. This view is nice. Very nice. And going up here to the high country, it's just more and more of this scrub brush and pine trees and stone walls and farms and olive trees. So beautiful. It's really nice. But we don't learn from our past, so most of us don't know anything about our past or these cycles, whether it's economic or geological or whatever, climate cycles. We don't understand complex chemistry, so we can't understand atmosphere and biology in terms of, farming and all these other things. So we don't appreciate what climate change is going to do to us, and the genie's out of the bottle. We can't stop it. So we either figure out a way to live with it, just like we figure out a way to live with COVID-19, or we don't. So the other thing I want to say again about the COVID thing, you often hear people say, but Steve, dude, I could get hit by a car tomorrow, man. Something's gonna kill you. I probably already have cancer. It's just a matter of time. Yeah, okay, fine. We're all gonna die, that's a fact. But who comes up to you and says, hey, Steven, man, did you ever think that today you could get in your car and have a lapse of concentration and kill another person? And what that would do to your life? You kill someone's child, grandma, whatever. So this mask thing, social distancing, all of these efforts, whether you believe in conspiracies or not, the fact is, you could hurt somebody by not knowing that you're contagious and carrying around a really nasty, nasty respiratory virus that hurts a lot of people. So maybe wearing a mask if somebody wants you to in the restaurant until you order whatever, I don't know, at an event. Maybe that's not such a high price to pay in a world where you have everything. You can go to the grocery store and pick up all your stuff. You can order off of Amazon. You got 1 million pairs of fucking trainers. You're so damn lucky. If you live in the, rich, weird Western world. You wouldn't be so lucky if you were born in Syria 20 years ago. Or in Somalia, or dozens of other places in the world. Right? Don't blame Pakistani people for being Pakistani. Just watch them on the Olympics. Don't get pissed at the Japanese people for being different from you. Watch them on the Olympics. They're beautiful. And they're all capable of doing amazing things. So appreciate people for that. Love them for that. Take care of each other, for God's sake. Public health is different from your own personal health choices, okay? Well, I work out, I take my vitamins, I take my vitamin D tablets, my vitamin C, I do my Pilates, I lift weights. I meditate, I listen to Sam Harris's, meditation thing. I'm fine, man. Nothing's gonna kill me. I'm not gonna get sick and make somebody's granny die. Well, come on, man. I'm happy that you're on your weight, that you're not obese, that you don't have metabolic syndrome from eating all the crap that's marketed to us all the time. But think about the person across the street once in a while. Drive carefully, people, so you don't kill somebody's kid. Can you just do that? Be responsible. You really don't want to open fire and be a good guy with a gun because a stray bullet could kill an innocent person. Have you ever thought of it that way? No, because you're the best driver you've ever known, because you're the best shooter you've ever known, because you've been in so many firefights in Fallujah that, give me a break. People who go to real war come back broken. But everybody else just thinks it's a fucking computer game. Get your shit together, people. Take care of each other, because when this complex global economy breaks down, you're going to need some friends in the neighborhood who know how to bake bread or fix an electric motor. And hopefully you'll have the face-to-face interpersonal skills to be able to make those friendships and survive and have a happy life. Or, before the shit hits the fan, you could just plan ahead a bit and go somewhere nice where people take care of each other. Or you could start representing those values in your own neighborhood. Anyway, I've gone on long enough. I'm sure you think so. So, thank you for listening. Click like and subscribe. Why not? I'm talking to myself. Every day we have a voice in our head going along. I'm actually flapping my mouth and tongue around, talking into a sports can. But I don't have anyone else to talk to right now, except a couple of friends. So, might as well put it out there. Take good care of yourselves. Get ready, because things are going to change fast. Things don't change slow. Nothing happens and then all of a sudden it all happens. Lots of quotes like that from lots of smart people. Thank you very much. Pt.3 out.